The cold evening wind made you shiver as you stood at the crime scene, your boots crunched on the wet gravel, and red and blue lights from the police cars flickered on the faces of the people around you. Officers were busy collecting evidence, and you crouched down next to the body, thinking hard about what happened. This feels personal. Whoever did this wasn't after money, you said quietly to your partner, Detective Lee, who was flipping through his notepad next to you. Lee nodded, looking serious. The victim's wallet and phone are still here, untouched, but there are a lot of stab wounds. This was done out of anger, not randomly. You looked at the blood splattered, noticing how messy they were. The killer wasn't careful. They got scared halfway through. Lee sighed and rubbed his head. We still can't find the weapon. Forensics thinks it might be a kitchen knife, but we don't know for sure. We'll figure it out. You said, standing up and brushing off your pants. People always leave something behind. Lee nodded again and turned back to his notes, but your phone started ringing. You frowned and pulled it out, seeing Jungkook's name on the screen. He rarely called you while you were working unless something was wrong. Lee raised an eyebrow teasingly. Your dear husband? You rolled your eyes, stepping away from the crime scene while he chuckled a little. He knows that your marriage was arranged and it's been 2 months, but he likes teasing you as you are friends from training days. You moved towards your car to talk in private. You pressed the phone to your ear. Jungkook? Hey. His voice came through softly. He sounded different than usual, almost shaky. Are you busy? I'm on a case. What's going on? You sound off. You got a little worried hearing his voice. There was a pause and you heard him take a deep breath. I've had a rough day. Will you be home soon? Your brow furrowed. Jungkook never asks these kind of questions. I'll be done in a couple of hours. Is everything okay? He paused again and your heart started to race. I don't really know. I just don't want to be alone tonight. Hearing how vulnerable he sounded made your heart ache. Jungkook never showed weakness. In the 2 months since your arranged marriage, he always seemed calm and in control, but now this was different. Alright, I'll be home as soon as I can. Just hold on, okay? You said softly. Yeah, thanks, he said before the call ended. You stared at the phone for a moment, surprised. Jungkook, the strong and confident CEO, had called you because he needed comfort. Something was definitely wrong. Everything okay? Lee's voice brought you back to reality. He was standing nearby looking concerned. You put your phone away and shook your head a little. I don't know, it's Jungkook. He sounded not himself. Rich husband problems. He joked lightly, but it didn't make the heavy feeling in your chest go away. You rolled your eyes, walking back to the site. Let's finish up. I need to get home. He walked behind you smiling. As you walked into the penthouse, the usual warm feeling of home was there, but something felt wrong. The air felt heavy, not as calm as it usually was. You took off your coat and saw Jungkook's shoes by the door, which he never usually left out like that. Right away you spotted him. Jungkook was sitting slouched on the couch, holding a glass of whiskey with the bottle almost empty beside him. He didn't look at you when you walked in, staring at the floor instead. In the dim light you noticed his eyes looked glossy and sad. He seemed different. Jungkook, you softly called his name while walking towards him, and he finally noticed you. His eyes looked sad and tired. This wasn't the confident man you were used to seeing. You're home finally. You put your bag on the table and looked at his condition. He was drinking. This was the very first time you have seen him like this. I came as soon as I could. You have been drinking? He said, sitting beside him. He glanced at the bottle and gave a sad smile. Just a little. Needed to feel better. You frowned watching him. He was usually so calm and strong, but tonight he seemed different. What's going on? This isn't like you. You asked gently. He let out a bitter laugh, running his hand through his messy hair. Maybe this is the real me, the one I keep hidden from everyone, even from you. You blinked, surprised by his words. What do you mean? He stared at the drink in his hand, not saying anything for a moment, then he set it down and sighed. It's been 2 months since we got married, and we are like strangers. We live in the same house but we sleep in different rooms. We talk but we never really talk about what matters. You felt something in your heart but remained silent, letting him speak. I thought I could handle it, this arranged marriage. I thought it wouldn't matter, that we could just live our lives and go through the motions. But it's not enough for me anymore. Your heart tightened at his words. He had never said anything like this before. I don't want to be married to you just on paper. I want to feel like we are really married. I'm tired of feeling alone. Your heart clenched at his words. This was the first time he had ever admitted feeling anything about your marriage, and it was hitting you all at once. Jungkook, he started but he cut you off. His voice suddenly became more vulnerable than ever. I'm tired of being alone. I'm tired of pretending that I don't care, that I'm fine with the way things are. I'm not fine. I need to feel something real with you. His words hung in the air, heavy with emotion, and you felt your breath hitch. You could see it now, the loneliness, the frustration he had been hiding, and he was finally letting it all out. He turned to look at you. His eyes were searching yours for something, anything. Do you ever feel like this? Like you're just going through the motions? I don't want this marriage to just be an obligation. I want to know what it's like to actually feel married, not just be two people living in the same house. You swallowed. You have engrossed yourself in work because you always had this idea that this marriage will not going to work. A marriage that was arranged by your parents and the foundation was a business deal rather than love. But that didn't happen. You also felt something for him but waited to hear from his side too. And it was happening. He felt the same, even more than you. You bit your lip unsure how to answer, but you didn't have to. Jungkook shifted closer to you and his hand again brushed gently against yours. Your heart was beating fast at this point. I know it's not fair for me to ask this, but would you stay with me tonight? Sleep in my room. I don't want to be alone anymore. I don't want this to feel so distant. I want to feel like we are really married. Your breath caught in your throat as you looked into his eyes, the vulnerability in them almost too much to bear. He wasn't just asking for company, he was asking for connection, for comfort, for something real between you. I want to feel like we are more than just strangers. I want to feel close to you, even if it's just for one night. Can we? Can we just forget the distance for a while? He was able to confess his inner feelings because he was slightly drunk. It needed him some guts and courage to ask you this. And this wasn't just for a night, as he said. He wanted to tell you that he wants this marriage to work, to last long. He was telling you how much he wants to be with you, to spend his life with you. You were quiet for a moment, feeling your heart race as you took in what he had said. He was always so calm and in control, but now he was asking for something so simple yet so important. He didn't want to feel alone. He wanted this marriage to mean more. Without saying anything, you reached out gently. Your fingers softly touched his cheek. His skin was warm under your hand and his eyes closed at your touch. For a moment he looked peaceful, like a heavy burden had been lifted from him. I'll stay with you. You don't have to be alone tonight. You whispered softly. Jungkook opened his eyes and looked at you. His face showed the relief and gratitude. He let out a shaky breath and leaned into your touch, like he had been waiting for this moment. Thank you, he whispered quietly as he pulled you closer, his arm around your waist. This time, it didn't feel strange or awkward, it felt right. You stayed there for some time. It felt so good. The person you fell in love with, but was not sure if you can get his love. He loves you the same way. A smile appeared on your face. Can we cuddle? He asked that made you chuckle as you wrapped his arms tightly and hummed. I might be not the best at it, but sure we can. Jungkook's lips curled up into a gentle smile. Don't worry, I'm good when it comes to cuddling. This made you laugh as you broke the hug and your heart skipped a beat when you see the smile on his face. He was smiling at you, not the usual polite or controlled smile, but a real genuine one. It was soft, warm and full of affection. For a second you couldn't believe this was happening, that you were seeing this side of him. Jungkook leaned forward and pressed a soft kiss to your forehead before standing up, holding his hand out to you. Come on, let's go to bed. You took his hand without hesitation, feeling your heart flutter as he led you towards his bedroom. This was the first time you had ever entered his room like this, with the intention of staying the night. It felt new yet somehow right. His room was dimly lit, the large bed taking up most of the space. You had seen it before, but it felt different now. Jungkook let go of your hand and sat down on the edge of the bed, looking up at you. His usual composed self was gone, replaced by a softer, more vulnerable side of him. You don't have to if you are not ready, he said softly, his eyes searching for yours for any sign of hesitation. But you didn't feel uncertain. You sat beside him and your hand found his. I want to stay with you, Jungkook. His shoulders relaxed as if a weight had been lifted, and he gave you a small smile. You settled into the bed next to Jungkook, feeling his arms around your waist as you rested your head against his chest. His warmth surrounded you, making you feel safe in a way you hadn't expected. For the first time since you two got married, you were sharing a bed, sharing something more than polite conversation or small gestures. This was real. As the silence filled the room, you couldn't help but to smile to yourself. It felt so good to be close to him, to feel his heart beating under your ear, and to know that at this moment you weren't alone in this marriage. Jungkook broke the silence first. His voice was soft and unsure. Does this feel weird to you? I mean, us being like this? You lifted your head slightly, meeting his eyes. A little, but a good kind of weird, you admitted with a small smile. Jungkook chuckled softly. He looked even cuter when he smiles naturally. Yeah, it does feel good. His fingers were gently tracing patterns along your back. A simple gesture that made you feel even closer to him. I didn't think we would end up like this, you said quietly, feeling brave enough to speak your mind. When we got married, it felt so distant, like we were just doing it because we had to. But now, Jungkook's arm tightened around you a little, his gaze softened as he listened. Now it feels different, doesn't it? He asked while you nodded. Yeah, being with you like this, it feels like we are actually connected. I can't explain it. It's nice. Jungkook let out a soft sigh, and you could feel his breath warm against your hair. I was afraid I wouldn't be able to get close to you. You always seemed so independent, like you didn't need me. I didn't want to force anything. You felt your heart clenching. You were like that because you didn't want to make yourself look desperate or weak, but you were happy and surprised by his honesty. You looked at him. I thought the same about you. I always felt like you had it all together, like you didn't need anyone. Jungkook's lips curved into a small smile. I guess we both were wrong. Huh? You smiled back, feeling a wave of relief wash over you. Yeah, I guess so. For a moment, neither of you spoke. The silence wasn't awkward, though. It was comforting. You felt his hand move from your back to your hair, gently brushing it away from your face. The small, affectionate touch sent a warmth through you that made your heart swell. It feels good being close to you. I didn't realize how much I needed this. You whispered, voicing the thoughts that had been swirling in your mind. Now you are not afraid to tell him your feelings. It's clear you both are in love with each other. Jungkook's eyes softened as he looked at you. I've wanted to be close to you for a while now, but I didn't know how to ask. I didn't want to push you. You felt a pang of guilt in your chest. I didn't mean to keep my distance. I guess I was just scared. I didn't know how you felt about me. Jungkook's fingers gently stroked your cheek. His touch was soothing. I care about you more than I've been able to show. His voice was filled with sincerity, and you could say that without any doubt. Your heart skipped a beat at his words. Hearing him say all that after all the uncertainty and distance between you made something inside you melt. I care about you too, Jungkook. I really do. Maybe I failed to show it, but I was not sure whether you feel the same, and that's why I was like that. But I swear I do love you. Jungkook's hand moved to cup your cheek and he smiled, a genuine warm smile that reached his eyes. I'm glad and I trust you because I don't want this marriage to just be on paper. I want it to be in real. You leaned into his touch, closing your eyes for a moment. Me too. I want us to be real. You whispered, feeling the truth of your words settle in your heart. For a while, the two of you just lay there, wrapped up in each other. You felt his chest rise and fall with each breath, his warmth surrounding you in a way that made you feel safe and content. This wasn't what you had expected when you first got married, but now it felt like everything was finally falling into place. After a long pause, Jungkook spoke again. His voice was low. Do you ever wonder what this would have been like if we had met differently? If it wasn't an arranged marriage? You thought about it for a moment. Sometimes, but I think this way we got to know each other in a different way. It's slower, but maybe that's good. It feels like we are really building something. Jungkook nodded as his hand continuing to gently trace your skin. You're right, I think I like that we are doing it this way. It feels more intentional. You smiled, feeling calm and soothing. You never thought it feels so good and comforting in the arms of someone you love. I never thought I would be here, lying next to you, feeling like this. Jungkook's grip on you tightened slightly. Neither did I, but I'm glad we are. You smile as your heart swelled with emotions you had been trying to keep in check for so long. Me too. You said while your gaze fell on his lips before returning back to him. There was a tension building between both of you now. There was a pause, a brief moment of hesitation before Jungkook gently cupped your face. His thumb softly caressed your cheek. His touch was soft and careful, as if he was afraid of breaking the moment. His gaze dropped to your lips for a second, and then without another word he leaned in, his lips pressed against yours in a kiss that was soft but full of meaning. It was slow and deliberate, like he was savoring the moment, the feeling of you being this close to him. His hand slipped into your hair, holding you gently. Your hands clutched his shirt as you kissed him. When you finally pulled back, both of you were breathing a little harder, your foreheads resting against each other. Jungkook's hand lingered on your face, his thumb gently caressing your cheek. I wasn't sure what we were before, but now I don't want to pretend anymore. I want us to be real. Your heart swelled at his words, the sincerity in his voice making your chest tighten with emotion. You smiled, leaning onto his touch. Me too. I want this to be real. Jungkook's lips curved into a soft smile before he kissed you again, gently, as if sealing the moment between you. When he pulled away, he wrapped his arms around you, holding you close against his chest. You rested your head on his shoulder, the steady beat of his heart a comforting rhythm in the quiet of the room. For the first time lying in his arms, it didn't feel awkward or uncertain. It felt like you were exactly where you were meant to be. And as you drifted off to sleep, you knew that from this moment on, everything between you and Jungkook had changed. This wasn't just a marriage on paper anymore. It was something real, something you both wanted to hold on to.